think, I studied anthropology a bit, and I've always been interested in other cultures. And I also been interested in textiles, has been like a lifelong interest for me. And, a lot of those traditions in other cultures, like stories and the histories of these cultures are being told through textiles. So I found my way to Suminagashi that route, and I particularly love Japanese culture and Japanese history and crafts. So it was a very good fit for me. But I have to say, the reason I do Suminagashi is not necessarily for the history or the context of it. It's more for the actual process. I love to do it. So yeah, you just do what you love. And through that, I decided that I wanted to travel to Japan and, really learn more about the technique from a historical perspective that was rooted in the culture it was formed in. I didn't want to just be like a foreigner doing a technique that I didn't really know anything about. And also teaching it to others, I felt the need to learn about that aspect of it. To really fully understand it and to teach it properly in the right historical, cultural context to others. So it was really important for me to go to Japan and do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I started marbling about 5 years ago, and then I went to Japan probably 4 years ago. So pretty quickly into learning the process, I wanted to go to Japan and learn more. And part of the reason is when I initially started marbling, I couldn't find any books on Suminagashi. I would go to the library, I would try and find books. There are not that many, and the only resources we have are books written by Westerners who traveled to Japan and also studied the technique. And I found actually one of the artists profiled in one of the books I found by Anne Chambers, who it's a really wonderful book about Suminagashi. Oh, and the first artist she profiled is the artist I studied with in Japan. So that was how I found out about him. And it was very long, like long, windy way to try and contact him or find somebody in his village to take me to his studio. So it was not easy to get that extra knowledge, but I'm still learning. There's a lot of other Suminagashi artists in Japan still, but a lot of them are older, so I feel the need to go back to Japan and study more while I can before this generation passes on and doesn't have
Or
somebody to pass their knowledge to. I've found most of the other Suminagashi artists that I know through Instagram. there's a there's a large artist community there, and there are now people practicing Suminagashi across the world. There are for many different things doing collages. Not too many people are doing video work, which is what I'm sort of moving towards into doing, or installations with Suminagashi. It is mostly still just printing, mono printing. So either printing on paper or fabric, and then doing something with that. But there's a lot of, there's one artist who I really love to follow who um, does Suminagashi in nature and prints on it and then writes the coordinates for where in nature the print was made. So there's a very like interesting connection with the print to the location um, in the process of Suminagashi. So there's a lot of people picking up the technique, which is wonderful because it is a dying art form in Japan. And I don't think the Japanese, community can support the craft itself. When I went to Japan, I asked a lot of Japanese people if they knew what suminagashi was, and I did not get any positive response. But they knew what shibori was, or karazome, or other, techniques that are more popular in Japan. So I feel the need to do what I can to spread the technique and keep it going. I would say most marbling artists today are not doing it in the traditional way, but also a lot of Japanese artists now are no longer doing it the traditional way. So traditionally, like suminagashi, the form is, very, very simple. The color choices are very simple, but people have really branched out into using way more colors than the traditional combinations. and using different chemicals. We have in the modern era for art, so many different chemicals and substances to work with that we can use to manipulate. So I do really encourage people to expand on the traditional techniques. But at the same time, the way I teach my classes when I teach it to others is I focus on the traditional aspect first and make sure to talk about the historical
Mhm.
cultural context of it before
Mhm.
we then move on to the experimental techniques so that they have like a base knowledge and a respect for the traditional technique and it doesn't get lost in there. So it's not just purely aesthetics that they're, dealing with Suminagashi. It's I make sure to pass on that knowledge of what I know about it as
I
well.
am really
With COVID, I've been kind of restricted. I don't really have an outside studio space right now in Detroit, so I've been really focusing more on doing video or things I can do in a smaller space um,
Where are you
on my
now?
own. Oh, I'm in my apartment right now, but yeah, so I don't have an outside studio space. I have kind of like a little corner of like my apartment that is where I make art.
I'm sorry,
Anyways,
which city? Sorry, I
oh,
forgot.
I'm sorry. I'm based in Detroit.
Right, right. Yes, thank you.
So I moved to Detroit about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Um, and since then my practice has moved more towards video art and I am an analog person. I love VHS tapes is what I grew up on as a little kid in the 90s, so it's definitely a nostalgic value for me. I love it when you see like old TV CRT TVs with
Mm,
the
mm,
line going across. I love all of that analog noise into the video stream. So what I do is I do what I call video collages. So I layer lots of videos on top of each other, and that could be live Suminagashi marbling, which I run through a visual presenter, and there's like a camera and on top of the visual presenter that takes an analog video feed that I then run into an analog video mixer and do just like some video effects with it. So I love the look of it. I will say a lot of it is aesthetics for me and nostalgic reasons, but I feel like there's a warmth to it. There's a difference to it. In the same way, like for musicians who prefer to use analog synthesizers or feel like there's a warmer sound from analog, I do. I feel like the colors that you get, using older analog equipment is just different than digital. The distortion, analog distortion, is different than digital distortion, and I love combining and playing with both of those things in my work. And I kind of see my work moving towards, I wanted to start creating NFTs because I feel like this is the
oh,
future for video art.
oh, really?
So right now with video art, you can put it on YouTube, you can make it free, make it available for people to see, but you can't really monetize it. And NFTs is like a really important way for video artists to begin to monetize their work. You can sell a video and you can know that, that video, someone can buy that video and only they can have it. And then they can sell it later. And the artist still gets a profit every time that video NFT
Mm,
gets sold. So this is really an important way that I want to move forward and yeah, give it a try. So basically, NFTs are, there's like an identifier in it, so it's very secure. It's using blockchaining. I actually am a big proponent of cryptocurrency. I do
yes,
feel
right.
like,
Blockchaining. Yeah.
oh yeah, blockchaining, cryptocurrency. I think it is like having a decentralized currency system and a way for people to really, support art in a tangible way. Because
Oh,
before, with the internet video, it's just there wasn't a way to do that. You could just reproduce the video over and over again. But here is a way that we can retain ownership over it, So I'm really excited about it. I haven't created my first NFT yet, but it is in the works and it is coming. And further beyond NFTs, I do want to create in the future like virtual installations, kind of with what you're doing with the exhibition, but maybe for VR or things like that, to create environments where people can step
Mm.
into and feel really immersed and being present in an experience. So yeah, creating like total experiences for people that they can really live in is what I'd like to do in the future.